So big thanks there. But we'd like to welcome Jaime Myers from the Chattanooga, UX designer, which is awesome. So without further ado, give it up.
I'm Jaime. I'm the UX designer at the City of Chattanooga, and that is a new position within the city. They've only had it since May. So this is not a long-standing position, and part of my job is to figure out what UX means working within the city. I have a master's in information sciences, and in a previous life, I was a librarian. I worked at UTC for a while. So I want to give a little bit of a big picture overview of what we're doing at the city, the sort of like 5-year vision, if you will. We want to make government easy to use, which is a big task because a lot of government hides behind jargon, or you have sort of like people who are in there for 20 or 30 years and they begin to speak their own language, and that language is not understood by everybody else. So my job is to try to make government understandable and make it easy to use for regular people. How we want to do that is by creating single sign-on portal for citizens and businesses. So you will log in to a single place and pay your sewer bill and your property taxes and put in a 311 request and everything else that you need to do with the city, just from one place. Yes? Yes. Yes. That's one of the things, because it will also function as our employee intranet as well. So if you are a city employee who also owns a business but you're a private citizen, you will get all power, right? Yeah. So yeah, we are handling those permissions and things. But this is like a 5-year vision. This is not happening tomorrow, right? But that will accompany a full website redesign. So that's like where we are headed over the next few years. So when I stepped into the job, I thought, oh, if this is your 5-year vision, I'm going to be doing a lot of public-facing stuff like right out of the gate. And to a certain extent, that's true. We have a couple of really awesome projects that are coming down the line, one of which I'm going to show today. But a lot of my job is actually behind the scenes as well. My job is also to make government employees more effective and more efficient at their jobs by empowering them with new technologies that help them work better and smarter. So there's a lot that I do that you guys won't ever see, right? Because it's happening internally. What we wanted to do over this last year was identify what is our big pain point right now. And we found that our big pain point within the city is 311 reporting. This is where you will request bulk trash pickup or brush pickup, or you see a pothole and you want to report it, it goes to 311. And 311 serves as the sort of communication link between you, the citizens, and the city departments that will actually go out and do that work. And some of our stats in 2015, so last year, 311 received 324,000 and change calls to their call center. And they have, right now, 13 employees who are taking all of those calls. We also have our top 10 most popular requests are hosted online in online forms. But the number of requests that came in via the web are only 27,800 and change. So why is there such a big disparity? Like, we're supposed to be, a tech city. We are gig city. Why are so many people calling rather than going online? Has anyone tried to fill out a 311 request online? How did that go? Because that's what it looks like, right? Yeah, it's not pretty. Put in your address, you're taken to the next screen, and it's still not pretty. Yeah. There are fields like after declarative sentences, and I don't know why. We can do better, and we know that we can do better. So we, later this fall, about mid-November, we are launching Chatt 311. This is going to be a 311 reporting app and web interface. This will be, it's shaping up to be the second largest launch for our city IT department ever, second only to our actual website. So this one is a big deal. So like I said, it's going to be a mobile app. It'll be hitting the iOS and Android stores. And some of the things that you can do are obviously you can submit 311 tickets. You can attach photos to a ticket. You can comment and track requests. So if something is happening down the street from you, you're like, I'm really interested on when the city is going to fill that pothole. You can track that request that somebody else submitted. And it's also a way for the city to push out announcements. We're going to have a mobile version, but it's also going to be a web interface. And this is what it's going to look like. So what we've had to do is we've had to take every single service request that we have now that 311 sees, and there are a lot of them, and condense it and make it friendly for the public to use, which was no small task. I think we started out with something 180-something requests, bumped down to about 57 within this system, and we do that by conditional reporting. So if you answer a question a certain way, it will go to one city department, versus if you answer another, it will go to a different department. So it's one request, but it can go two places, and that's how we helped cut down on the bulk. We also had to do some work on making the language user-friendly because it was not before. Again, when you have people sort of in the same job for a very long time, they begin to speak their own language, and that language doesn't compute for other people. So my favorite term, I think, was, what was it? Right-of-way, right? So you have a right-of-way mowing request. I'm like, what do you mean? I can sort of intuit what you mean by right-of-way, but what do you actually mean? And the answer was, well, it's the roadway plus, the shoulder plus maybe the sidewalk if there's a sidewalk plus whatever the city owns beyond the sidewalk. So that's the right-of-way. And I was like, can we not just call that maybe roadside? Because when most people think of right-of-way, they think two people pull up to a stop sign and who goes first, right? So it's things like that, more almost information architecture issues, making sure that all of this is organized in a way that makes sense. So when you come in, you'll have different categories, and with probably our most popular requests are going to be here in yard waste, trash, and recycling. So I can submit a brush request. I fill out the form by putting my address, my phone number, description of where this stuff is, and it'll actually populate on this map. So when you go back home, you can see the latest 10 to 20 requests on the map. You as a citizen, not just us, you guys can see this as well. You can click into any one of them and see what it is. So brush collection. This is one of our tests. We're testing the system now, so these are all test requests. Potholes and roadway distress. So you can go in and look at these service requests. You can comment, you can track on them, and you can also track their status. So a red pin means that it's been submitted, but it hasn't been touched by the city yet. Green pin means that it's been submitted and it's been a completed job. So this one is done. By doing that, when you call 311, you know exactly where they are in the process. Right now, there's no way to track that, but this will allow you to track where they are in the process. Do you have any questions? Yes? Yeah. So you can actually search by keyword right up here. There's a keyword search field where you could search all the issues. Yep. Sure, you will get email notifications, and that will give you your number, your issue number, which then you can track it. And every step along the way, whenever a status is updated or a comment is added to your request, you'll get a notification. Yeah?
Can you upvote?
There's not really an upvoting.
I really hate that.
Yeah. There's not really an upvoting feature, but you could comment and say, no, really, guys, this is bad, right? And we will get a notification of that as well when there's a new comment. Yep. Yes. Yeah, so the map is set to only track the latest like 20 requests. But I can go to a list and I can see all the requests. I can scroll down through all of these requests. And whenever I hit like a little load section, so like I just reloaded, loaded a couple times. If I go back to my map, I can see that it's populated way more. And the map, to be honest, it is more for the citizens' benefit to see what's happening as it's happening. On the back end, we have our own reports that we can run that will allow us to better track from a worker's perspective what's happening. Yeah. Sure. So a lot of the promo will come from the mayor's office. Like we may create some of the assets that they use for the promo, but that will be coming from the mayor. Yep. And so their plans, I don't know what their plans are quite yet. Yep. Yeah. Yes.
And I'm curious, did like
A little of both. I think so. There's certain things that UX brings to the table that a lot of programmers who have been there for a while don't. So it relieves a burden from them to think about sort of the visual design. And it's also, what we found was that when we would go into meetings with city departments who say like, hey, can you create an app for us to track checks that we tried to cash that have been bounced. So someone writes a check for their sewer bill and it bounces. Like how do you track that and collect on that money? A lot of times they would come up and say, well, we want an app that does this, this, and this, right? And the programmer says, yeah, I can create an app that does this, this, and this. But nobody was saying like, why? Why do you do it that way, right? And so myself, and we actually have 3 business analysts who will go in with us and say, okay, let's talk about not only what you need in terms of software and the programming, but how can we improve the whole workflow for you? That's part of that making government more efficient. Yep. Yes?
have you received
No.
I would put that.
No, not so much. There are things that just naturally take longer because there are higher finances behind them. So if they were going to need to repave a whole road, that's not going to get done tomorrow. But citizens will know about that. So I haven't, in all of the trainings and meetings I've gone into, I haven't heard anything of like, oh, we're going to be like held accountable, because they are held accountable now. You can call in at any time and say like, what's the status of my request? But the fact is you have to call, and this just makes it easier to track. Yep. Uh-huh. Yeah, so we partnered with a company called Acela. So much of the UI is given to us, and it's up to us to configure what we want and what we don't want out of it. So part of it is going through and testing with end users, which we're doing now. And the other part of it is the back end of going to each and every department and saying like, this is everything that this software can do. This is everything that we can configure it to do. What do you need and what makes your workflow better? Does that make sense? Yeah, so we began testing when we were looking at Acela to partner with them. So to understand how all of it would work before we bought it and decided this is where we're going. So we've been in a way testing all along. We're just getting to the phase where we're this close to launch, so we are going to start ramping up testing to make sure everything is good, that there's no surprises. Yep. Yes? Yeah, so that was asked a little bit earlier. The mayor's office will do the promo and the announcement when it's going to come out. Yep. Yeah, so the media has seen it already, so they know it's coming. So yeah, it'll probably be news channels and your social media outlets as well. So if you see, Chattanooga is actually mapped out on the UI, and in a way that this is not something we are changing. If you're outside of Chattanooga city limits, 311, we can't submit a request outside of city limits.
But can you see?
Yes, you can log in from anywhere. Yep. Yep, and like people who are visiting Chattanooga could use the app to report something that they see. I don't see that as our primary market, but they could do that. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, so we're kind of going through this in the city right now. We have another app that we are creating for budget for offers, which is basically where city departments as well as some nonprofit partners can request budget money for programs throughout the city. And we're creating an app that you will submit that request. So I'm working with our director of applications to create this. And I think that the big thing in our workflow is letting sort of the UX designer play first, showing some prototypes to really nail down a design, and then passing off those specs to the programmer. For me, that's easiest because then I can say, okay, I figured out like some of the kinks before you started, so I don't have to like back you out of your process, right? Yes. Well, yeah, I mean, the idea is just to do some UX. No, I mean, it really is to try to map out what you think the functionality is going to be first visually. And then once you've figured out, like, yeah, that's a good way for that to work, then you can then go and make it, right? But if you want to offer me a job, like, I'm more than willing to talk. Yes. So we have not done any like end usery kind of automated testing. What we are doing right now is looking at how data is going to be imported from the system that we are currently using into this new system of Chat 311. Mixed results right now, so we're not quite sure with a big data dump how well this is going to link up to the current system. And what we're doing is trying to configure a way to make sure that we grab all of the requests that are currently open, make sure that they land in here before we launch, because we don't want to lose anything. That's like worst case scenario. We don't want that to happen. Yes?
So when it comes
Interesting. No, I'm really glad you brought that up because in some cases, no, they're not going to have the same workflow. What this system would allow is for a worker to go out with a tablet or a Chromebook and track requests in real time. Because often what's happening right now is that the people who are actually going out to complete the work are going out with paper print-offs from the current system, and they're just looking at pieces of paper, making notes, dropping those back off at the office at the end of the day, and those are getting those notes are being entered by the office assistant into the system, which is not as efficient. So in order for this to shine, status needs to be updated regularly as things are being done, and that's going to work best if we have mobile technology out in the field. So that's the other thing that we're testing right now, is we are putting tablets and Chromebooks in some of these work trucks and seeing what people prefer, and then we'll deploy mobile technology from there. Yep. Yes. Sorry. No, go ahead. Oh, good question. So we have the option to set the default to public or private. Right now, everything defaults to public, but you, as you're filling this out, you could say, no, I don't want everybody to see that, make it private. Yep. Yes. Hmm? Yeah. Librarians are great at organizing information, and UX design, I think, at the heart is the ebb and flow of information. What does the user need to know? When do they need to know it? And that's what I think I bring to the table, is just that extra, like, you know, I do graphic as well, but it's understanding how to organize things to make it easy. Yeah. It's a different side to the coin. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, they do, and that's part of what we were doing when we were researching, that they've partnered with other cities like Philadelphia and Palo Alto to do their 311 reporting. So
How much?
we have some flexibility, not quite as much as I would like, but that's always a question too when you have limited budget and a limited staff, is if a off-the-shelf product can do 93% of what you want it to do, is the extra 7% worth the months of time and effort by a team of programmers to make it? And this is sort of like our first step toward that bigger vision of the portal, right? This is the sort of like, if we can get this set up and working correctly, we would have a better idea stepping into that project. Okay, this is now how we need to revise it, right? Yes.
Does it recognize?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that. So we can create like a 10-meter like geo-boundary for specific requests, or for all of them. We could just say we want to see, you know, all duplicates. And it will automatically flag that, and then we can go in the back end and then verify, like, yeah, that was a duplicate.
Okay.
Yep. Yes.
So does this system
Yes, it does. Yeah. So each of our requests, all of these different ones, the priorities can be set for each one: low, medium, high. Yep. And we can go in and triage as well. So if we see that not only there was a pothole, I think our pothole request. Yeah, so if we see that there's a pothole and someone says that actually it damaged my vehicle, like that's how bad it was, we can bump that to a higher priority. Yep. Any other questions? All right, thanks guys.
Thanks for that. Well, thanks everyone for coming out. Next week, we're going to have Nathan Smith. He's going to be talking about mainframe in the modern age. That's all the details I have. So stay tuned, and thanks.